Good evening, good morning, good afternoon, good whatever time it is, wherever you are, whoever you might happen to be. Welcome once again to Nerd Week Live, the show in which we, the folks at Nerd Caliber, bring you news from the past week throughout the nerddom world, uh, presenting it to you with some of our commentary and a little bit of more information that you might have not already seen. I'm your host, Rodney Brown, the editor-in-chief of Nerd Caliber, first-person shooter on Facebook as a cosplay photographer, Burley underscore adopter on Twitter and a couple of other places doing a couple of other things. I'm solo tonight, folks, so we're probably going to get through this pretty quickly, even though there's a lot of news out there. And let's say hello to some people already in the chats. So Yogurt, yes, you were first. If you're still with us, that was a good 25 minutes ago. And Ye Plays, you say you were in NYC. Is that New York City or New York Comic Con specifically? And if it was New York Comic Con, did we interact with you in some fashion? While you're replying to that, if you're going to, let me start off the news right out of the gate. We're going to go with some New York Comic Con news. So at a panel, Brian K. Vaughan dropped that Saga is coming back to Image Comics for a regular monthly run starting in January of this coming year. January 26th to be exact. The comic book is an award-winning, really inventive sort of science fiction, space opera. It's kind of hard to say exactly what it is. Probably one of the closest things to anime thinking that anybody's had. Greg, welcome to the show. That's okay. Sorry I couldn't join tonight. That's fine. You've got stuff to do. I am absolutely sure. New York Comic Con photos. Anyway, Saga is an award-winning comic. It tells the story of, let's see, I'm going to make sure I get this right. Alana and Marco, who are sort of like the Romeo and Juliet. They're on different sides of a long-running interstellar war. And they fall in love and have a child, and that child is viewed as something that just can't happen by both sides, and so they go on the run. And it's essentially a story about them on the run trying to raise this child in a universe where most of the people, or most of the important, powerful people on either side of, their aspects of, their part of the galaxies are out to get them. It started 10 years ago, ran for 54 issues, and then has been on hiatus. Greg says, exactly, panel picks, yes. And has been on hiatus for 3.5 years. So it's finally coming back, ostensibly to run for quite a while. This is what Vaughn said at the panel, or in the canned statement. I can't remember exactly where this one came from. Here we go. I think our next 54 issues will be even more shocking, strange, and spectacular than the first 54, so we can't wait to get back on the shelves at your local comic shop soon. By we, he also means, so this has been written by Brian K. Vaughan, but every bit of it's been drawn by Fiona Staples, and she absolutely deserves, as much of the credit for the crazy, innovative, and fascinating design. Vaughn may have come up with a character that's, part of an android race, imperial nobility. But it's probably Staples that drew the design that kind of looks like the robot from Fooly Cooly, with almost a CRT-like head. Doesn't act at all like that. It's a very interesting character. So yeah, if you're a Saga fan, it's coming back. And that's huge news for an awful lot of people who are really big fans of Saga. I've only read the first collected omnibus, and I loved it. Absolutely fascinating, but for whatever reason, I just never went on to collect any of the other collections. So So I don't know exactly where they left off or where they're going to be picking up, but it does mention this in the Bleeding Cool article that I have pulled up here. So if you want to go to bleedingcool.com and look this up, you can get a little bit more information on your own. All right, moving on. The TV Series Foundation, or the Apple TV Plus Series Foundation, so I guess the Streaming Series Foundation, is just 4 episodes into its 10-episode run, and it got renewed for a second season already. Apparently it's doing well enough that the folks at Apple think it's worth another shot. It is, by all descriptions that I know of, a pretty expensive production with lots of special effects. So, good on Apple for committing to it and, deciding to bring it back. Now, I haven't seen it. This is kind of like, the last thing. I've read the books, the Foundation trilogy, and many of the prequels many times. But I've never seen this particular adaptation yet because I don't have Apple TV Plus. There are members of our team that do have it, but don't think anybody on our team has seen it yet. So, I can't say with any definitive, firsthand knowledge whether or not it is, as good as the books or better, or, certainly worth a renewal, but I'm guessing it is. It's getting kind of mixed reviews, but generally on the positive side. So if you're a fan, good news, it's going to be coming back. So we get into our first bit of casting news, and that is that this person right here is, the person on the left, I should say, is Bailey Bass, who has been cast to play Claudia in the upcoming Interview with a Vampire AMC series. And that is, of course, Kirsten Dunst as one of her very first roles, playing Claudia in the movie, the Brad Pitt and Tom Cruise movie. So Bass is apparently pretty young. I'm guessing 14 or 15. According to this, she was 13 when she was cast in the upcoming Avatar sequels number 2 and 3, which have been filming for a while, so I would assume she's at least 14, if not 15. So a little bit older than Dunst was, and a little bit older than the character is described as. And also a person of color, clearly, which fits with their casting of Louis, who is going to be played by Jacob Anderson. So Sam Reed has been cast as Lestat. I believe he's an Australian actor. Or Irish. And Jacob Anderson, we covered this before, has been cast as Louis, and he is an African American. So it'll be very interesting to see where they go with that change to the story. It's going to be 8 episodes according to this. Premiere sometime next year. We don't know when. And be interesting to see where they go. I'm actually very intrigued now that they've cast a person of color as Claudia as well as a person of color as Louis. Definitely they're going to be making some changes to the world a little bit, or at least the story, and I'm kind of intrigued to see where they go with that. More casting news. That's Adam Warlock, folks. Will Poulter has been cast in the upcoming Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 as Adam Warlock, who was teased at the end of Volume 2 when the Sovereign, the leader of the Sovereign, basically you see a cocoon-like thing, which is a very Adam Warlock thing from the comics. And the leader of the Sovereign says something about how this is the ultimate perfect sovereign being that's inside there. And that is what Adam Warlock is in the original comics. He was created by scientists and geneticists on Earth to be sort of the ultimate expression of human evolution. I admit I was shocked when I first read this because, I'm like most people who are familiar with Poulter from the comedy We're the Millers. He's the not real son, but the teenage son who, has the line, "You're getting paid." And also from the last Narnia movie, The Voyage of the Dawn Treader. I can't remember the character's name, but he was a very important part in that. And that was also a kind of a comedic role, although it had dramatic aspects to it. I completely forgot that he was in The Revenant, and very good in The Revenant. And also the image that I had up there is from a movie called Detroit that he was in. So he's got serious chops. Although I'm guessing he was probably cast in no small part because of his comedic chops as well. This is a James Gunn movie after all. So, Guardians is just getting underway. So it's going to be obviously quite a while before we see it. I believe it's already been announced as to when it is, but I don't see it in here. And I don't have the Marvel timeline up in front of me, so I can't say for sure. But the more I think about it, the more I'm cool with this. I mean, it was kind of cool with it before, just really surprised that somebody who's, to me, was mostly known for comedy, but he's clearly done, very dramatic work as well. So good get for him to get into Guardians. Also makes me wonder whether or not there's going to be a future for Adam Warlock after Guardians Volume 3. I hope it is. I like the character a lot, so I hope so. But, I don't know. Maybe Poulter is going to be playing this as a one-off. More casting news. There on the left is Jamie Clayton. And Jamie Clayton has been confirmed as being cast as Pinhead in the upcoming Hulu movie recreation of Hellraiser. They're obviously going in some interesting different directions with this, and I kind of like that idea quite a bit. Apparently, we also already have the name of the lead, and this was announced a while ago, and I guess we missed this. And that is Odessa Azion, and I'm pronouncing that the way because there's an apostrophe between the A and the Z, so I'm going to go as a separate sound. Azion. From something called Grand Army, is what they're listing here in Deadline. So, again, this is casting that I kind of like the idea of doing a different Pinhead than the one we're used to, than, a typical male figure. It'll be interesting to see whether or not they lean into the inherent sexuality that's fairly common in things that also border on horror. Or in this case, are blatantly horror. So, yeah, I'm keen on this. I'm very much excited about it. This is all very early on. So also coming on board, according to this article, is producer Mark Toberoff, along with David S. Goyer and Keith Levine. So, it's got some people behind it. The story is written by Goyer. So, yeah. Luminous. Hello, all. Please warn us before any spoilers for The Expanse. I'm still on season 2. So, good call. The Expanse will be the very last topic, so I'll definitely give you a warning. I'm not sure that... Yeah, there will be spoiler stuff. Yeah, so I'll give you a warning. There's definitely spoiler stuff because we'll have to talk about what happened in season 5. So, Greg, yes, I'm as big a Narnia nerd as I am a Tolkien nerd. What was his character? What was the kid that came with them from school in Voyage of the Dawn Treader? Will Poulter's character, if you can remember that. I can't remember. Anyway, so the idea of the fact that they're just bringing people on here, we have no idea when this will exactly hit Hulu. It's just early in production, so we don't know for sure. It'll be a while. And our next topic. So speaking of, it's not really scary. Anyway, the news is that Sabrina, and particularly Kiernan Shipka, playing Sabrina, will come back in one or some episodes of the next season of Riverdale. And this is the picture that they put out there to announce it. Yes, Greg, thank you. Eustace Scrub was the name of the character that Will Poulter played in Voyage of the Dawn Treader. They put this out on Twitter, and then everybody picked it up. The producer and showrunner of both Riverdale and The Chilling Adventures of Sabrina, which was on Netflix, Roberto Aguirre Sacasa, who is also the writer and creator of the comic book Chilling Adventures of Sabrina, had planned apparently for a crossover in season 5. Then, Sabrina never got a season 5. Netflix pulled the plug. And I'm not sure what the behind the scenes negotiations were, whether or not Netflix had to release the character. Greg is bragging that he knew the name Eustace Scrub without looking it up. Nerd. And thank you for being a nerd. Whether or not there had to be any sort of contractual dealings in the background to get this character released from Netflix to allow it to go to a different network, CW, or not, or whether the fact that they canceled the show means that the rights just, disappeared, or Netflix no longer had any control over them, and therefore it was just an easy thing for Aguirre Sacasa to write into the show. But that will be in the next season of Riverdale, which tells you there'll be a next season of Riverdale. So there you go. So this is, I really wish this wasn't still happening. So that is, of course, Letitia Wright as Shuri from Black Panther. If you recall, we did the article way back when it first came out, that Letitia Wright was sharing anti-vax information from a pastor that she followed on Twitter and was apparently fairly knowledgeable about. She was knowledgeable about the pastor, not that the pastor was knowledgeable about anything to do with vaccines. And in an article in the Hollywood Reporter, generally about how Hollywood is dealing with COVID and the vaccines, they just sort of slip in this bit that there are apparently quite a few stories of Letitia Wright sharing her her knowledge and her anti-vax stance with people on the set of Wakanda Forever. This doesn't need to be said. She's a danger to her other cast members. Sure, she's allowed to have an opinion. Disney should not be doing anything to promote people who have that opinion and are putting their other cast members in danger by trying to get them to adopt this opinion. And that's my opinion. So, enough said about that. It's not going to stop the fact that she's going to be in the next movie, clearly, and even despite having been injured on set here in the greater Boston area. Hopefully her role isn't that big. All right, this blew my mind. That this is even happening, one, and two, who they cast for this. That is one of Rob Liefeld's most egregious examples of Liefeldism. The character John Prophet, generally just called Prophet as a superhero, originally from Liefeld's team book back in the early Image days, back in 1992, Youngblood. And eventually given his own title, and it actually had 3 different runs. The news is there's going to be a movie, and Jake Gyllenhaal is attached to star in this movie, which is going to be directed by Sam Hargrave, who did the Chris Hemsworth streaming Extraction, which was a really good movie. So it's being written by Mark Guggenheim, who is a writer on Legends of Tomorrow and Arrow. And Liefeld is one of the executive producers. So I just... the story of John Prophet is he was a homeless guy who agreed to be, for pay, part of experimentation by this scientist this doctor, during World War II, or during the World War II era, in the early 40s. And it turns out the doctor is, in fact, a scientist from the future who turns Prophet into a the super soldier. He's doing it under the direction of this evil character who wants to make him, an evil drone. So not only do they make him superpowered, they essentially wipe his mind and program him. But the doctor decides that he actually wants to program him to be, a good person, but also and apparently a devout believer in God, so that he can go forward into this doctor's future and fight against some sort of cult. And it's Liefeld. So I'm assuming they're doing that version. The third volume, which was not done by Liefeld, they jumped the story. He somehow transports 10,000 years into the future. And it's kind of a Conan in the ruins of a, city. Anyway, it's the worst excess of the 1990s. Did they not learn anything from the absolute, awful box office of Vin Diesel's version of Blood? Blood something. I can't remember. It's not Bloodsport, but these characters don't, these 1990s, particularly superhero characters, don't portray well on the screen. There's no chance they're going to do that. I mean, the guy is wearing, gigantic, racing car fenders for shoulder pads. And if he's designed to go fight people in the future, why does he do it with swords on his back? Anyway. So, yeah, good luck to that. I love me some Jake Gyllenhaal, but I will probably not be the one waiting around for our press screening of this when it happens. And this is all brand new, so, again, years in the future, and who knows if it's actually really going to happen. But if you're a big Prophet fan, and I mean the character, not like money, hey, here it is, folks. Your turn. So this next one is I guess it's an unsourced story, but it's Deadline, and again, Deadline is pretty accurate. They are reporting that there are talks now to develop a spin-off of an Agatha Harkness series from WandaVision, starring Kathryn Hahn. If that happens, I think it's fantastic. Anything that Kathryn Hahn can be in, I'm all for. I'd be very interested in seeing whether or not they're going to try to do it as a sort of a prequel story, either ultimately telling her story from the witch trials period of Salem all the way up to the modern day, or if it's going to be a sequel, if it's going to actually take place where maybe Agatha has her memories back, or I can't imagine they're just going to have her wandering around that town in New Jersey not remembering that she's a witch. But you'll never know. And again, we don't know that it's going to happen. This is Deadline reporting that they're in talks for it to happen, which I really hope does. So we'll have to see any further reporting on this to see whether or not it's going to go forward. And because of that, there's absolutely nothing to tell you about whether or not there's a timeline or so on. It's early days in a single source story. This isn't a single source story. This is a huge story. Everybody saw it. Twitch got leaked. everything. Almost everything, because apparently the leaker says that they're going to send out another dump truck full of information about Twitch very shortly. But the entire source code, secret documents about how they were creating a game store competitor to Steam, which they ultimately pulled the plug on. All of the financial information about the payouts to the top Twitch streamers. Lots of information that Twitch really did not want to get out got leaked. Twitch has suggested that everybody change their password. Luminous, more Agatha and with the same writer. Yes, I forgot that. It's Jack Schaefer is, in fact, in this article, the person who is going to be writing this, and Jack Schaefer was the person that created WandaVision. And Luminous, I'm glad they're giving it a try. I fingers crossed that they are, in fact, actually giving it a try. Once again, this is a reported single source story from Deadline. But anyway, Twitch has gone out of their way to, suggest that you change your password. And apparently, if you use the streaming key way of connecting to any of the streaming technology, it's forcing you to update your streaming key. I use the automatic OBS system, and there's been literally no change whatsoever. Now, whether or not they changed that automatically in the background and OBS picked it up and it doesn't, it was seamless to me, that may be the case. And if that's the case, well, good on them for making something seamless. It also could be that they just ignored that. So, yeah, Twitch. If you've got anything associated with Twitch, including Amazon, which owns it, I changed my Amazon password, folks. I would recommend you do the same. Amazon owns it. Who knows how tightly integrated those two services are. So yeah, bad week for Twitch. If you haven't out there, folks, go change all of your Twitch passwords, information, etc. All right. Now we're back to New York Comic Con news, and the rest of these are a whole bunch of trailers and information about those trailers and the shows that dropped at New York Comic Con. We're going to start with one that I'm really super excited about. Greg, change your password and always, 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 always turn on two-factor authentication. Yes. I would much rather have two-factor authentication than... So Twitch's concept of a password now is insane. They're good, which is the only level that will pass. If it's fair, it won't pass. They won't let you use that password. Good security is ridiculously long with ridiculously wild mandatory numbers of characters and punctuation and so on. It's been proven that that's not the best way to go about things. But two-factor authentication, that's really important. Maybe don't use SMS to your phone. Maybe use email. Even if that email goes to your phone. There's been reports that, that various carriers have had their SMS services hacked for 5 years. So, yeah. But anyway, yes. Greg, yeah, those requirements are crap. Yes, thank you. So, first up is we get to see the first trailer for Lost in Space 3. We know that Lost in Space 3 is coming as early as December 1st. We know that it is going to pick up right after where the first... Oh, well, not actually, it's been about a year, according to this. So not right after the end of Season 2. It's been about a year. Which is a good way of explaining why Will... So it happens when you cast kids. Kids grow up. So you might have to have time skips in there in the storylines to explain that. Greg, no, not email. Get an authenticator app from Google, Microsoft, Duo, LastPass, and so on. And that's even safer. So, good point. Um, since well, yeah, I know. So if you don't want to hear the Lost in Space thing, turn off your sound, and when you see the next image come up for a different thing, you'll know that the Lost in Space discussion is done. But basically, at the end of the last season, the kids, well, most of the cast, and a bunch of young people are all trapped on one planet. And the parents, John and Maureen and Dawn, are trapped somewhere else, and they've all got to try to, escape from their particular situations and, get back to each other. It sounds cool. I've loved the series. It's some of the best sci-fi, fun sci-fi, as opposed to like very serious and hard sci-fi like The Expanse, that's out there. Can't wait to see this. December 1st is looking really good. I love that doesn't look like they've lost a step in the special effects, in the space work. It's all really solid looking. So check it out, folks. Trailer's out there on YouTube. Pretty easy to find if you haven't seen it. Our next trailer and our next, we know when it's happening, the trailer for season 13 of the 13th Doctor dropped. Greg's got to run. See ya, Greg. The trailer for this season 13 of Doctor Who dropped, and we find out that we're going to get it October 31st. Nice Halloween surprise. So it is a little... well, I guess we know that this is the last season for Jodie Whittaker, so there will be 8 episodes of this, which is shorter than normal. But it will be an 8-episode story arc, so all of the stories connect to ultimately lead to a big conclusion. The Jodie Whittaker will apparently appear in 3 other specials throughout the year. And those 3 specials will finally be her last appearance as the Doctor. Of course, we have no idea who the next Doctor is. There's a lot of speculation out there. We talked last week about the fact that Russell T Davies, who started the return of Doctor Who back in the Christopher Eccleston days, is coming back, and will be the showrunner going forward. So, expect a lot of really interesting and good things. So we'll see where this goes. But Jodie Whittaker's last season starts October 31st. And a very exciting trailer. It's pretty short, but boy, does it name drop a ton of returning enemy species, races, groups. I think they all qualify for that. Some of which don't make any sense whatsoever being brought together. Like she mentions Weeping Angels, and Sontarans. Okay. But I'm here for it. So it looks very cool. Also something I'm here for, and I know a lot of my fellow Star Trek fans aren't necessarily, I gotta say, give this, I think you're going to be able to jump right into this new season 4 of Star Trek Discovery without really having seen anything before. So that is, of course, Sonequa Martin Green as Michael Burnham, now the captain of the Discovery, in the new uniforms that they have, which are a very interesting sort of callback to the Wrath of Khan style, with some elements, like the shoulder epaulette things, of their Discovery style. Really a very interesting look. And it's consistent throughout, the whole bridge crew and so on. But that's not the only thing you see them in. Of course, there's all sorts of different, costumes because they do different things. But there's a couple of scenes in which Tilly and Michael and somebody else, I can't remember who the third person is. It might have been Reno. are in something that kind of looks like future ninja costumes. It looks like they've got dual swords on their back. The costumes are all black, tactical looking sort of things. The trailer shows what looks very much like, in a couple of very quick fight scenes, I can't remember the name of them, but the Romulan sort of spiritual monk warriors that are from Picard seem to be in this in a couple of scenes. Which, since this is, more than 1,000 years in the future from Picard and that timeline, who knows, who these people are. But boy, it looks like them. It's a very exciting trailer. It looks really cool. I'm very interested in seeing where they take the adventures of the Discovery now that it is squarely in a future that cannot affect the already previous existing timeline. Unlike the upcoming series Strange New Worlds could. Although I don't think, if they kill Spock in Strange New Worlds, then that screwed up the original timeline completely. So that's not going to happen. Because Strange New Worlds, if you don't remember, is the story of the Christopher Pike era Enterprise. So anyway, Discovery Discovery drops pretty soon, November 18th. Obviously Paramount Plus, the CBS stuff, if you don't have it and you like Star Trek stuff, you should probably get Paramount Plus. The trailer looks good. If you're a Discovery fan, you should check it out. If you're not, but you're a Star Trek fan, you should check it out, because I think you might like this season better than some of the previous ones. Our next to the last, Luminous, not our last, but our next to the last, trailer, reveal, date, etc. Well, I actually think the date for this has already been out. So, the Resident Evil Welcome to Raccoon City movie, we got to see the first trailer for it. So this is sort of the prequel to the games. It sets up what happens to get things to the point of the infestation. It has finally got its motion picture, its MPAA rating, which is R, and specifically it says strong violence and gore and language throughout. As this article on Bloody Disgusting points out, all of the previous movies have been rated R for strong violence. This is the first time they've used the term gore to include things you should watch out for. And if you look at the trailer, it really looks like a much better adaptation of the actual Resident Evil franchise. So in that image of there, of course, you've got Leon S. Kennedy and Claire Redfield. That is Ivan Jogia as Leon S. Kennedy, Kaya Scolodario as Claire Redfield. We've already talked about this, that Hannah John Kamen from Ant-Man and the Wasp, the villain from Ant-Man and the Wasp, has been cast as Jill Valentine. Robbie Amell from Upload and Other Things as Chris Redfield. Tom Hopper from Umbrella Academy as Wesker. And of course, Neil Effin McDonough as William Birkin. Always Neil McDonough. Anything Neil McDonough. Yes, please. So this is November release, November 20-something, he says, as he's looking through the November 24th, in theaters only, apparently. Or initially. Who knows when it's going to be released any sort of video on demand. But in theaters, November 24th. So this looks pretty good, folks. I like the take. All right, Luminous, the image is up. That's the Expanse. We're going to be talking about it. Plug your ears, or good night, or wherever you want to do it. But warning, Luminous, warning. We're talking about The Expanse. So that is an image from the trailer for the upcoming season 6 of The Expanse. This is our last topic, by the way, folks. The Expanse is a sci-fi, a very hard sci-fi series that is currently on Amazon. It started on Sci-Fi, on the Sci-Fi Channel. They canceled it. It got picked up by Amazon, which did a season 4 and 5. And this is the final season, season 6. So the trailer shows a lot of very quick images for the most part. There are some longer bits, mostly related to either Christian Avasarala talking. So she does a voiceover at the beginning before you see her, where she's actually talking to some people in winter on Earth. But she does a voiceover that basically talks about how the Earth is pretty much screwed. And you see that, and again, Luminous, if you still haven't turned it off or plugged your ears, end of season 5 warning for anybody who's end of season 5. Marco Inaros, the terrorist radical that kind of unites the radical militant elements of the belt behind him, sends a bunch of stealth covered, using the stealth that was developed for Jules Pierre Mao's ships that were hiding all the proto-molecule stuff in the first season, stealth-covered asteroids and large meteors, and slams them into the Earth and Mars. Apparently he continues. Earth continues to get bombarded during the course of this season. So it looks like they are mostly going to be talking, and in fact, one of the showrunners has said this. Frank, one of the producers, one of the two people who go by the name James S. A. Corey as the writer of the books. Okay, Lumina says he's avoiding the Expanse spoilers. Good. So hopefully fingers or the sound turned off. He has said that what this upcoming season is going to concentrate a lot on is sort of that big payoff of what started with the tension between the Earth, Mars, and the Belt in the very beginning of the series, and kind of indicates that they aren't going to get an awful lot into Laconia, this sort of splinter empire from a Martian admiral who basically takes proto-molecule and goes to start up these gigantic sentinel ship things. They're not explained. I haven't read the books, but these things that are in orbit around one of their planets that were clearly created by one of the aliens, the ones that made the proto-molecule to wipe out the gatekeepers. And that's a kind of a bummer that we don't really get any resolution to that, but that lets him tease, as they did when it was announced that season 6 would be their last on Amazon, that there will be future stuff. Now, whether that's actually true, whether they're working on movies, whether they're working on movies at Amazon, whether they're working on who knows what, we don't know. And this could be Ty Frank just like putting stuff out there to make sure people watch season 6. I'm hoping that we will get more content that explains the rest of the books. There are, I think, 3 more books after this, with a possible another one coming, I think. So I want to see more of this world. It is brilliant, hard science fiction in which, you can't go faster than the speed of light, except for these aliens, which have figured it's some sort of teleportation thing. G-forces kill people. most warfare is done with projectiles because the beams just doesn't work. It's really amazing and wonderful series. The characters are absolutely fantastic. If you haven't watched it, watch it. You've got 5 seasons to catch up before season 6, which drops December 10th. Now, this is only going to be, and this kind of kills me, 6 episodes. So it ends January 14th. And that's it. Now, mid-January, I'm done with my Expanse fix, and I'm not really sure. I'll have to read the books, obviously. That's what I'll have to do. But that's it, folks. I'm going to bring up the Patreon thing so that if Luminous needs to know, he can turn his sound back on. If you have not, please join us at patreon.com/nerdcaliber. Check it out. We have just 3 tiers for you to help us out with monthly contributions starting at $2 whopping dollars. And we would really love to have you help us get to other cons, which is mainly what we use any of our Patreon money for, is get more content for you here on YouTube, on the website. Speaking of the website, Greg mentioned this earlier before he had to leave. He's currently working on, I think, our first post from New York Comic Con, which will be pictures and a write-up about our cosplay and photography shootout panel, which was 2 o'clock on Friday. We love doing that at big cons. We'll be doing it at cons, and small cons. We've done it at Granite Con a bunch of times, really to great success. We'll be doing it again, every chance we get. It's a fun time. We team a photographer with 1 or 2 cosplayers, give them a very short amount of time to run out and take a picture that best exemplifies a theme that we either pick or we allow the studio audience to vote on. Studio audience, we're not in the studio. We allow the audience to vote on among like 2 or 3 possibilities. They've got 20 minutes or so to make the picture, come back. We put them up on screens, and our panelists critique how they work as both emblematic of the theme and how they work as a photograph. It's a lot of fun. So that article will be going up relatively soon. That apparently is the first thing that Greg's working on, and you'll get to see all the amazing images that came out of it. So Thursday night, we will be doing our full fat spoiler chat on Disney Plus Marvel's What If. So if you've seen it, or if you don't mind spoilers, please join us. If you haven't seen it, you've got 2 days to catch up on it, or you should probably avoid the show. So that said, thank you once again for joining us, or joining me tonight, and I will see you all at an upcoming show